Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session, and today it is my pleasure to welcome here our coach Alina. So Ali, hi, how are you today? It's really nice
Hi,
to see
Veronika.
you.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you too. I'm really glad to see you after the your vacation, and it was so nice to catch up before this live stream to how it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming here. And yeah, as you mentioned, I've been on a little vacation. So for everybody here, I'm still a little bit in shock being here at home because I arrived like really late at night. But I really wanted to do this Q&A because honestly, I must say that I kind of missed this work. Like I was away only like a week, but I like being in contact with the coaches, with the students, and answering questions. So it's really nice to catch up always. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I have prepared a few questions that actually haven't been answered in the last Q&A I had with Daniel, and yeah, we can answer them now. So the first question is from, I don't know, and I'm in a bit of a plateau. I sleep correct for 5 to 8 nights, and then I get a wave of anxiety and sleep for 2 to 3 hours for a night or two. Any tips to sleep well more consistently? So what are your thoughts, Ali?
Yeah, this is a good question, and I think like this kind of like plateau is basically to me sounds like a sleep pattern.
Mhm.
And for anyone who is maybe new to this concept, sleep pattern is basically any sort of like logic that our brain kind of extracts from our previous experience with nights. So maybe it can look back on our previous one or couple of weeks, and then it starts noticing like some sort of like, oh, okay, for the past X amount of days, this is what was happening every time I had. Like 5 8 days, and then I had like this anxiety. I had 2 3 choppy nights, and then again 5 to 8 days when it was fine. And so the brain kind of like deducts some sort of like a logic, like, okay, so this is how things are, and this is the pattern itself. And paradoxically, when the brain kind of creates this pattern, what happens is that then it starts to really believe that pattern, which paradoxically recreates that pattern. It kind of pastes that pattern onto the next nights, and so it acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when we are already kind of like in that quote unquote pattern, and let's say it's the end of our good strike or a good like part of that pattern, and then our brain already expects like, okay, so now about this time I usually have this disrupted and choppy sleep, and so we start bracing ourselves for this, right? So we become more tense, more protective. We try to find any sort of solution to not experience that dip in the in our kind of like flow of the night. And so because there is so much pressure, we actually do experience that dip, that turbulent period. And then when we know that, oh, it's about 2 3 days and I'm good again, right? So that belief already puts us at ease, and that's when we start having this kind of like easier nights. And so, whenever we find ourselves in any sort of sleep pattern, whether it's this kind of pattern or a pattern where it's like alternating nights, like one good, one bad night, or whatever the pattern looks like, the first step, in my opinion, is to acknowledge and accept that, okay, right now, what is happening, that I am in a pattern, and this is okay. Because the more we are trying to fight with the pattern, or we have a very negative perspective on it, then it kind of like backfires. We try to quit the pattern, and therefore we are using it. So the
Mhm.
first step is basically everything what we've been talking on this channel is acceptance, allowing that pattern to be there, to demystify it, to make it okay for it to be there. And with that kind of like acceptance and acknowledgement of that pattern, now we can begin to kind of like open our minds to the idea that each night is actually a blank slate. There
Mhm.
is no there's nothing tangible about a night itself that makes some of them good and some of them bad.
Mhm.
It is only our beliefs about or kind of like this kind of forecasts that can a little bit make things tricky. But when we bring back our awareness of the fact that each night we don't know how it's going to unfold, it might be the night when I'm experiencing like more disruption, but it might as well be a night when there will be less sleep disruption, right? So kind of like being open to any outcome, not trying to kind of like write the night off just because it's supposed to be the bad one. It can already put our minds into this kind of mode where the belief in that pattern is not as strong.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, it takes just like one or two experiences where that pattern doesn't follow the usual prediction for that pattern to kind of collapse. So as much as that pattern feels tangible and feels very rigid, actually like it might just take a small experience where for some reason that pattern is like shaken and the belief in that pattern crumbles, and then we are kind of like exit that plateau experience. So I don't know if that makes sense to that person, but yeah, Veronika, if you have any
Yeah.
additional thoughts to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the patterns can be very arbitrary. Like for some people, is the pattern like one night of sleeping, one night of not sleeping, or maybe 2-3 nights of sleep, and then another of, I don't know, again 1-2-3 nights of not sleeping. So really the patterns can be very arbitrary, but and I really like what you said, that each night can be like really a blank slate. So the night before the next one basically doesn't really predict how the night will be, right? And it's only our own predictions and trying to figure out how the night will be that can put us into some pressure and tense, which can kind of like interfere with how the night goes.
Yeah.
And maybe one thing that would also would be suitable to share is here is the success regress. Like when we think of the string of nights like a success, and we think of it like, oh yes, this is really great, and I hope I can keep it going as long as possible. But then we start to feel the tension, like, can I go another night and another night? But the more we bring the attention, the more we start to monitor the sleep, the more we take it like, oh, this is something unusual. Then we are with this monitoring and attention, it's not really um, really compatible with like effortless sleep, right? So uh, when and naturally there are some disruptions, there are like nights when the anxiety might show up because your brain has been used to feel anxious for a long time. So of course it's kind of like brings you these memories, brings you these old emotions, and kind of like normalizing this experience, thinking, learning that this is absolutely okay, that I can go through nights of less sleep. This can help us to move forward, actually, because what we think that is bringing me down, it's not really bringing us down. It's a neutral experience. It is just an information. It is an opportunity to show our brain like, hey, this is okay even if I don't sleep so well. And the next day I can do my best to go about the day as normal as possible. And if I feel too off, if I don't feel too well, then I still can take care of myself. I still can be kind towards myself. So in the end, being okay with kind of like quote unquote going backwards can help us to go and move more forward. So as I wanted to add, to share, and I hope this will be helpful for many people here. And right, I think that we already some questions coming in, and first one would be from Annie. Struggle a lot with hypnic jerks. What can I do so that they don't scare me so much? I know it's actually a good sign because sleep is being induced, but it scares me so much because it's precisely because of this that I can't sleep. And there are so many jerks. Then my heart races and I panic. So, what do you think, Ali?
Yeah, I just want to relate to the fear of those experiences. I understand that they can be very uncomfortable, and they can be perceived as actually something that stands in the way of what I want to achieve, which is like, effortless sleep, peaceful sleep, right? So when we keep experiencing those, it's normal to react to it in a certain way. And so What I find helpful, and again, I'm glad that Annie mentioned that it's also a good sign, because it does indicate that sleep is happening, because otherwise we would not have that experience of like becoming aware of this. Yes, in kind of like part of overcoming this fear is to start seeing it also as a sign that our body is producing sleep, our body is doing something, and this is kind of like more of hard evidence of that. Now, another insight that can be helpful in those struggles is that we usually perceive that we only have one shot per night. So if we happen to kind of like miss that wave when sleep is happening, and then we suddenly become like more aware of it, or we somehow twitch, or anything happens, right? We might feel discouraged and scared that because we just kind of like missed that wave, no waves are going to follow. But that's not actually true. Our body will keep producing those throughout the night. So for us to maybe what can be helpful is to lower the stakes when it comes to experiencing those, even if we don't happen to transition to sleep on the first times. It doesn't mean that our body will stop creating those opportunities for sleep to happen, right? So we can just like lower the importance of that, like I must not experience this hypnic jerk, but I must like transition to sleep, just by reminding ourselves that, you know what, it can actually like even if I don't catch it first time, like there will be plenty of opportunities. I don't have to really grasp for those first ones, right? So that can already put our minds at ease. And another thing about the feeling scared is understandable, because our mind has been taught to be afraid of wakefulness. And so when we are going through something like this, the first involuntary reaction is one of like kind of like an adrenaline response, right? And because it's involuntary, it doesn't make sense to blame ourselves for having that reaction in the first place. So Annie, when you are dealing with something like this, it's not that you are kind of like doing something wrong by feeling scared in that moment. What I found helpful for myself personally is to start kind of getting to know that reaction a little bit better, because until a certain moment I was really trying to escape that reaction. To me, that reaction was actually one of the scariest parts of that experience, and so I tried really hard to not have that reaction. And paradoxically, the more we are trying to avoid that reaction, next time we are facing it, our sensitivity to that reaction grows even more. So trying to not have this fear reaction from hypnic jerk, right? We are kind of like building up the sensitivity. And so to overcome this, we can start doing the opposite. We can start leaning toward that reaction, actually getting to know it, um, allowing ourselves to just feel it, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's highly frustrating to have it. Just let it kind of like the image I have in my mind is like, let it kind of like wash over us. It's like a wave of, like we are standing in the on the seashore, and there is a wave coming, and you just let yourself like to be kind of embraced by that wave and just let it pass through it. So something like this, I can imagine working with that a wave of reaction after this experience happens. And what happens is that the more we are kind of like keep leaning toward that reaction, kind of even like expect to meet it, right? So there is not so much mystery behind it, and over time the sensitivity starts to drop. We become less and less sensitive, and this doesn't happen instantly. It might take a while. It might take actually like like a couple of weeks or a couple of days. I don't know how long for each person, right? But it will take time until that reaction will start kind of like get more and more mute. So just maybe like changing this perspective, like if Annie, if you're kind of like trying to move away from that reaction, consider a possibility. What if you actually started leaning towards it, just allowing that reaction to be there? So that's what I had in mind.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Ali. And actually, we had another question, or maybe related to this one from Fabio. Hello, Portuguese and my English is not the best. What means jerks? Because I put a transition Google.
Yeah.
Can you help? Is of course. By the way, hola Fabio, como estás? Bem-vindo a the Sleep Coach School. I was in a exchange Erasmus program in Portugal, so I have picked up a few words. So yes, the jerk means when the moment when you are falling asleep and you get a really strong physical reaction, like you move really strong. It's
Which
like you're shook, yeah, right, and this like wakes you up from the sleep. So it's like Alina explained it really, really nicely. And also, there is another comment from Rich. I had the jerks, but every time it happened, I reassured myself it's just my brain trying to protect me, then try to relax. They do go down slowly. I don't think they would. Yeah, maybe this one is not finished, but yes, it's exactly like Ali mentions. Every time when it happens, we can reassure ourselves that this is very normal part of falling asleep process. I like to explain it on or like show it on children or when you sleep next to someone. When they're falling asleep, they jerk, but they are not even aware of it because they don't assign any meaning to these jerks. You know, this is just your muscles are relaxing, but still they maybe your brain is still not aware that you are falling asleep, so it tries to wake you up like, hey, we are falling asleep, are we safe here? So maybe something similar. And it's again very normal part of sleep, falling asleep process. And I liked once one of the students said that when you experience an hypnic jerk, it's like a fly that buzzes by your ear. By the time you realize it, it's gone. So it's really, you can't do anything about it, the fact that it happened. So what matters is the reaction that we have. If we feel like, oh, this is wrong, this is not good, this is not supposed to be, I missed my opportunity to sleep, then of course you kind of like intensify your reaction, your strong negative reaction to this hypnic jerk. But when you say, wonderful, I was just falling asleep, you know, my body still knows how to sleep. Of course, we might still feel frustrated. We might not feel nice or happy about it. Of course, it's really natural. But just accepting, like, okay, I'm frustrated, I didn't like it, of course, normalizing this experience, normalizing my reaction. This is kind of like you mentioned, like it's muting our response. And we are kind of like teaching our brain like, hey, this is okay, this is safe, there is nothing to be worried about. And when our brain feels safe in this scenario, you are still going to experience these hypnic jerks because it's just a part of it. Yeah, just a part of falling asleep process. Everybody is experiencing it, but slowly but surely, you might not be so aware of them because the hyperarousal is dropping down, and the hyperarousal is what is kind of like bringing your attention to these hypnic jerks. So cool. I hope we have answered this question. And we have a question from Ian. So hi, Ian. Hi, Veronika and Alina. Hope you're both well. Yes, we are. Thank you so much. Maybe too late for a question. However, I find myself handling wakefulness better. But I have noticed that when I decide to lie down in my bed and relax, I find myself thinking and I'm secretly hoping that I might fall asleep. I then start thinking, is this really a sleepy word? Just wondered what your thoughts are. Thank you, Ian. So what are your thoughts, Ali?
Yeah, I think, I understand this experience very well. For me, it was also kind of like one of the lingering feelings, even though when I already went through a lot of progress, there was still part of me that was like acutely aware of like subtleties, like especially is this like subtle hope that, oh, maybe if I just lie down, maybe there will sleep will happen. And I'm kind of like all this kind of tense and like curious how it's going to unfold. And of course, when we make it a problem that, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't hope secretly, then it kind of like creates friction, because then we are fighting with ourselves. But what if we actually, instead of like keeping it a secret, actually bring it to awareness and just realize like, yeah, there is a part of me that actually wants to fall asleep. Just to be kind of like very open with ourselves, not trying to hide or trick ourselves, because it's really normal that for the time being, especially at the tail end of recovery, there will be these subtle pressures. And instead of like creating strategy to not experience that pressure, we can actually just make it okay for that residual pressure to be there. And when we are no longer perceiving it as a problem, that's when actually it stops being an issue, and the appearance of that pressure starts to go down. So I would say, just to end, that it's completely normal that you are experiencing this. I would not like try to kind of suppress it or try to kind of persuade my brain to not want or not to hope for sleep, because if it does, it does. So it's completely normal. And then just to give ourselves what we actually like want. If we want to relax, and there is a part of us that hopes that there will be some sleep, let it be that way. We can still aim at and just resting and just giving ourselves this comfort, and just making it okay for that part just to be there a little bit more, maybe vigilant or cautious. That's completely fine. And in the absence of resistance, that usually like starts to things kind of sort themselves out. Like the urge to problem solve sleep starts to go down, and overall like things become easier on their own when we are no longer introducing this kind of like tug of war, like or strategizing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Ali. And I'll go right to another question, and I would like to answer this one from Anne. So hi, Anne. And she says, I have a lot of trouble falling asleep. If I know something might wake me up. Been wearing earplugs at night for 10 plus years, life changing. But we are considering having a baby. This holds me back. So thank you so much for sharing this question. And I can relate a lot, because I experienced like having a baby, and kind of like expecting to be woken up was like really a big sleep disruption for me, because I was very tense and nervous, like when my baby will wake me up, when I will be again like my sleep will be disrupted. And when I knew like my baby would wake up in the intervals of 2 to 3 hours, I was worried that within this time frame I will not be even able to fall asleep, right? So I understand what you're talking about, and you mentioned like you're wearing the earplugs for 10 plus years, and it's been life changing for you. Actually, having a baby and wearing earplugs is not exclusive. It's not like something that can go together, because for me, for my own comfort, it was also helpful to wear earplugs when I had a baby, because I was sleeping with my baby, like it was next to me. I felt more comfortable when I had my baby at the reach of my hand. So anytime my baby would wake up, I would just hold him or just nurse him, and he would fall asleep again peacefully. So, but my first baby was a really loud sleeper, so it was moving a lot. He was like really making noises, and I was really scared. And I was like, what does this noise mean? What is this? Why is he waking up? Why is he is he safe? Is he hungry, or is he going to wake up? It's like really very initial period of being a mom, when we are kind of after reading all these scary scenarios, what all can go wrong with a baby. Like we are very tense, we are very nervous, but the things will calm down when you see your baby like sleeping night after night, or even if the sleep is disrupted, you see that your baby's safe, your baby's okay. So you internally just calm down and are not so stressed by all these sounds. But it still takes some time to, or it can make us a little bit nervous, all these sounds. So at that time I decided to use the earplugs for my own comfort, because, and when I use them, I wasn't anymore woken up by every tiny sound of my baby, rather when my baby really was hungry. So it was like, during influx, he could like move or talk from his or just mumble from his sleep, and I would sleep through it. But when he was really hungry, he would just literally pat me on my head like, "Mom, I'm hungry," like, you know. So then I nursed him, and we both could keep on sleeping. So. Um, this is basically one part what I wanted to say, that it's absolutely fine to still keep wearing earplugs. I used them for maybe a few months until his sleep settled a little bit better. Um, but one thing I also wanted to share that, you know, this kind of like tension that we'll be woken up, we might be woken up by some sound. And this is, I would say, like an invitation to work with our own emotions, with our own reaction to all these sleep disruptions, because the sleep disruptions are normal. There can be there is like countless things that can wake us from our sleep. Is like noisy neighbors, stress, hormones, babies, anything. But it is only our own reaction and the fact that we hold sleep as something sacred, as something that we have to keep chasing for, we have to protect strongly, and we have to really tiptoe around it. And really understanding this, that if I was able to fall asleep initially, I still can fall asleep again and again, over and over throughout the night. The less I think sleep is something that I have to protect, that I have to chase for, that I have to really keep an eye on, then the more we normalize this experience, these multiple nighttime awakenings, the easier it becomes for us to fall asleep over and over again. Um, so that is basically what I wanted to share, Anna. And there is really a lot to talk about. But yes, there's maybe one last thing. I hope you don't mind. Um, if there is something holding you from having a baby like this, especially when it's circumstances that you cannot control. Also, for me, insomnia was holding me for a long time from having a baby, because I was scared. Like sometimes it was so bad that I felt like I can't take care of myself. How can I take care of my own baby, right? But you know, uh, sleep is not something you have to chase for, and the more you will delve into these teachings, the more you learn about it, the easier it becomes for you. And the best time to have a baby is now, when you feel it, and when anything can happen. There are like countless things that can happen, but the more we are putting these things in front of our decision, like I'm going to do it, the longer it takes. But the reality is, when something happens, you'll be solving it in this given moment. This is the time, and I'm going to take care of it. But all these scenarios that we make up in our mind, like this is not good, I can't do this because of this or that, this is what is holding us back, of course. But the reality is, when we are in the situations, we will take the right actions. I hope I have explained it understandably. And yeah, so right. Actually, it seems like we have answered all the questions, and maybe just one follow up from Fabio. I have insomnia since 12th of February, 72 hours straight. I am 40 years old. Doctor gave me Xanax, one for 1 month. Now I'm trying without medication, but it's a struggle. Many nights I just sleep for hours. Be brave, everyone. Any thoughts to share with Fabio, Ali?
Yeah, I would say that, of course, understandably, it's a difficult struggle. I think that since it's relatively like recent struggle, I think the best kind of like way to start this process is by first of all like educating ourselves about like what exactly, like what actually insomnia is, how it works, how anxiety works, why do we feel a certain way. So the more we demystify this experience, the more kind of like easier it gets to deal with. It's no longer this like a big blur of something which we don't know what it is, but the more we kind of learn about it, things become less intimidating, less scary. So I think like Fabio, you're just starting your journey. If you find these teachings helpful to you, if they resonate, I think this is like a really good sign that, you know, exploring the education first like could be a good like fundamental step, and then you can start like applying the principles, the ways to overcome the fears, and then like there's this saying like the path will reveal itself like as you keep walking. So it's not that like we have like um already like, oh, by doing something right now, this is I'm going to get somewhere, but it's actually saying like, okay, how can I apply what I know in this particular moment, and then the next moment will reveal itself. And that's how the journey unfolds. It's very gradual. A lot of times it's going to be not what we imagine it to be. That's why we usually say, and Coach Veronika will probably agree, that like recovery process is not linear. It's going to be kind of messy for majority of people. It was like this for me. It's going to usually it takes longer than we would like it to take, but I usually say that it's not going to take an eternity. So that's something that is helpful to keep in mind. It's possible to overcome this, yeah, and just one day at a time.
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you so much for this wonderful wrap up of this Q&A. We have a few thank you notes from Annie, from Ian. Thank you so helpful. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely weekend yourself, Ian. And from Anna, thank you so much. So grateful you took time to answer my question. I will dive deeper into this content. Thank you. You're very welcome, Anna. And I wish all the best to you and to everyone on this on this channel. On this Q&A. Thanks, Alina, from Fabio. Okay, again, thank you very much for being here, Ali. Thank you, everybody, for these wonderful, lovely questions. And I'm going to see you next time. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone.